Hello JTC 300 class. Welcome to our virtual lesson on writing for the web. So today we're going to talk about how web content is quite a bit different than print content. And we're building upon these ideas that the web is an active medium and users are engaged and can very much choose when and where they want to use content. So web content must be brief. Users are on a very specific mission. So to be effective, content on the web needs to be user-driven and get to the point quickly. To do this, websites must condense and combine vast stores of information into something that specifically meets the user's immediate needs. So instead of author-driven narrative, web content becomes a user-driven narrative. So print media calls for well-crafted complete sentences, but on the web, fragments often let you pull information carrying keywords to the front while reducing word count. So the spacing looks different. Content that's too full, there's too much writing, just feels like filler. You're really thinking about scannability and helping get the message across as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So here are some differences in the print versus the web. In linear media, such as print, people expect you to construct their experience for them. So readers are willing to follow the author's lead. But in non-linear hypertext, the rules reverse. Users want to construct their own experience by piecing together content from multiple sources, emphasizing their desires in the current moment. People arrive at a website with a goal in mind. They are ruthless in pursuing their own interests and in rejecting what the site is trying to push. 70% of web users don't read word by word. They actually scan the page. Only 16% of users will read word by word. So you can see how these statistics will greatly inform how websites should be designed. So here are a few techniques for building websites, and these techniques you could use in our assignment that I'll talk about at the very end of this little short video lecture. But these ideas of highlighting keywords, crafting meaningful subheads, making bulleted lists of information that builds logic and flow, keeping one idea per paragraph, half the word count of conventional writing, and using the inverted pyramid style of writing. So we'll get to the inverted pyramid style a little bit later. I'll explain that. It's a journalism concept. So for introductory text, most people are going to skip this. They're going to go look for your keywords. They're going to go look for your outline for very specific information that they want. So make sure that it's very brief, as some people might read it, but for the most part, focus more on getting your keywords into the website. Also, numbers and infographics are such a great way to condense and combine information. So if you could learn how to craft these, I know pretty much any job that hires you will see that as a very valuable asset. And using these numbers kind of helps promote scannability to help people catch on to their different needed information. Okay, and now to this idea of the inverted pyramid. In journalism, the inverted pyramid was invented as the writing style of newspaper mediums because for a long time information was maybe transmitted over Morse code or just given over telegraph, and someone would take the telegraph information and transcribe it into a story. And you never knew when that telegraph was going to shut off or the information wouldn't quite go through. And so this idea of, hey, give your whole story away at the very beginning and then put less pertinent details towards the bottom, that's the inverted pyramid. And so web writing really follows this trend that you want to give away your entire story first and then add in the details that don't make quite as much of your core story towards the end. So again, here's these web writing guidelines. You can come back to this list, maybe take some notes right now because you're going to need to think about these ideas in your evaluation of a website for our assignment for today. So emphasize headlines and subheads, summaries and captions, hypertext links and bulleted lists. Write in the active voice, which we've talked about in class before. Use a simple sentence structure. write positive statements. And we do this because of web reading patterns, and there's a lot of studies that show that people read web pages in an F-shaped pattern, meaning that they'll scan the very top, kind of run down along the left side of the page, and maybe kind of look towards the middle. And so you've got to put your most important information within that area of the screen. Okay, so now we're going to look at a few examples of a promotional writing paragraph and think about how we could change it a little bit. So let's assume for a minute that you want to start planning your spring break trip next year. Where would you like to go? Well, you might want to join the thousands of college students who gather every year in that very famous vacation paradise, Nebraska. That is why most of you choose to come to CSU, right? Because it is so close to Nebraska. So using your internet skills, you conduct a search of places to visit in Nebraska, and this pops up. This site is using marketees found on many commercial websites. So based on what we just learned, what do you think is wrong with this wording to try to get you to come to Nebraska for your spring break? How can you improve it? Just by using objective language and eliminating the wordy subjective clauses, you will improve the writing of this prompt. So here's an example of the same prompt but using more neutral language, but it's still too wordy. Maybe it would help if this website worked to make this as concise as possible. They could actually reduce the word count by 50%. Okay, this is getting better, but what else could they do to make this actionable? Even if we placed the original text in a scannable format, we would see immediate improvement. So here's the scannable format for the statistics and the numbers. And if we employ all three improvements, the information gets even better. Now, for this type of web writing, when combined with hypertext links, this will help you quickly find the information you need to plan your spring break trip to Nebraska. All right, so that concludes our pretty short lecture today on tips for writing for the web. We've put up a virtual class assignment with quite a few details. You need to do a couple of types of writing. Part 1, I want you to find a professional website that you think needs improvement and include a link to this site. You need to prepare an evaluation of this website concerning usability, content, writing, etc. Kind of go back to the points in this lecture that identified how you can make web writing usable and scannable. And then I also want you to suggest some ways to overcome the problems that you have identified. So yeah, include at least 2 concepts about good web writing from this lecture, and you want to shoot for about 4 to 5 paragraphs for this first part. For the second part, I want you to write a good 1 to 2 paragraphs on your opinion of the future of online communication versus printed communication. So as always, let me know if you have any questions and see Canvas submission for further details.